In May 2019, a netizen posted on a website telling about a series of bizarre things that happened after he was approached by a woman pushing a baby stroller. The poster said that if she hadn't experienced it herself, she would never believe that it would happen to her one day. Because the process was too bizarre, please add a friend who likes to stay up late to watch it together. Then let's not talk too much and start today's story. I met a strange woman, and the one who came home with me was actually a paper doll. Time goes back to June 2017. On the day when the incident happened, the poster and her father had a quarrel about which university to fill in. Because both father and daughter have stubborn personalities, the two of them were in a stalemate and ignored each other. The poster stayed in the bedroom until in the afternoon, around 3 o'clock, she was getting more and more irritated from staying in the house. So she went to a park near the community, thinking of taking a walk to relax. But after she walked into the park for a distance, she found that something was wrong with the park today. She didn't know why there was no one inside. Because at this time in the past, when she came here, she would meet many old men and women walking their dogs or playing and singing instruments, but today the park was surprisingly quiet, without any sound. At first, she thought it was because the weather outside was too hot, so there was no one in the park. Then she walked alone deeper into the park, thinking of finding a place with more shade to sit for a while. But the more she walked, the more she felt something was wrong. Why didn't she meet anyone along the way? Just when she was hesitating whether to go back, she found a middle-aged woman in a short-sleeved shirt and dark green carrot pants standing in the fitness equipment area. She was pushing a baby stroller. It looked like she was pushing her child to bask in the sun. The host thought for a moment and thought that since there were people here, she shouldn't go forward. After all, this place was still popular. Then she found a bench not far from the woman and sat down. But she didn't expect that as soon as the host sat down, the middle-aged woman came towards her with a baby stroller. She didn't shy away from strangers and started chatting with the host about family matters, such as how many people were in her family, how many brothers and sisters she had, etc. The host was in a bad mood and saw someone taking the initiative. He started talking to her, and she wasn't too defensive. He basically said whatever he wanted to say. After a while, she felt that he seemed to know her very well. She couldn't help but chat with him for a long time. When she came to her senses, she found that the sun was about to set and the sky was getting dark. She planned to go home, but they were having a good chat at the moment. She was too embarrassed to say that she wanted to go home. So she thought of an excuse, got up to check on the child in the stroller, and then took the opportunity to say that it was too late and they should go out together. But when she stood up and walked towards the stroller, she suddenly realized that the child in the stroller didn't seem to make any sound during the long chat. Although she always felt something was wrong, she had already stood up. So she pretended to approach the stroller and glanced inside. But this glance made her heart rise to her throat and her scalp exploded. There was no baby in the stroller at all, only a wooden doll wrapped in blue cloth. The host's brows tightened immediately, thinking that this middle-aged woman might have a mental problem. Thinking of this, she didn't care about any social etiquette. She said goodbye and turned around and started walking towards the park entrance. But the strange thing was that when the host left, the middle-aged woman behind her also stood up and followed the host with the stroller. She followed slowly. At this time, the host was only muttering in her heart, afraid that the other party would do something bad to her. Good things. So she thought about walking a few steps faster and putting some distance between herself and the other person. But what she didn't expect was that after she walked quickly, the woman actually started to jog with the baby stroller. Seeing that the other person was about to catch up with her, the poster immediately started to run. She didn't breathe a sigh of relief until she ran to the road opposite the park. At this time, the poster calmed down and found that the middle-aged woman chasing her with the baby stroller stopped when she reached the exit of the park. She looked up at her while talking to the inside of the baby stroller, as if she was calling something. The poster was so scared that she quickly turned her head away and quickly started to run towards her community. However, the strange things didn't end there. As soon as the poster entered the community, she saw her father standing at the door of the apartment building waiting for her. Because what happened in the park in the afternoon was too weird. After seeing her father, the host wanted to tell her father about what happened in the afternoon. But she felt it was not safe to tell him outside. So she grabbed her father and thought about walking home quickly. Because it was an old community and no one was managing it. The sensor lights in the stairwell were always in a state of intermittent working. That day, after the host pulled her father into the stairwell, the host tried to cough several times. It was still dark inside. Luckily, the host's home was on the second floor. After that, she pulled her father and began to climb up little by little. During the period, the host also told her father, "I encountered a strange thing in the park next to our house today, which scared me." But her father ignored her. The host thought her father was still angry about what happened during the day. She didn't say much. She just pulled her father upstairs. But the strange thing was that she didn't know why. She always felt that her father was a little unsteady tonight. She needed a lot of strength to pull him up. And her father didn't say a word the whole time. Finally, she used all her strength and finally pulled her father up to the second floor. Just when the OP turned the corner and was just a few steps away from home, she found a figure standing in front of her door. Because the corridor was too dark, the OP couldn't see the figure clearly. He just stood there motionless. The two looked at each other briefly. Suddenly, the man quickly rushed towards the OP. For a moment, the OP was so scared that she was stunned. When she got closer, she saw that the man was her father. The author's heart skipped a beat at that moment. She thought, if the person in front of her was her father, then who was the person she was holding behind her? Before she could turn her head, her father pulled her over and whispered in her ear, "Don't talk, come into the house quickly." Then he pushed and dragged the poster towards the front door of her house. However, during this process, the poster still looked behind her reflexively. Instantly, the hairs on her body stood up. The poster said that although she did not see the face of the person behind her clearly at that time, she clearly saw that the lower half of the person was wearing a pair of green carrot pants, which were exactly the same as those worn by the middle-aged woman she met in the park in the afternoon. Then the poster's brain seemed to freeze. While she was still thinking, her father had dragged her into the house. After locking the door, the father asked the poster where she went in the afternoon after the quarrel. He also said that he had looked for the poster near the house for a long time but couldn't find her. The most important thing was, "Do you know what you were pulling just now?" The poster was a little speechless for a while, because the matter was far beyond her cognitive scope. She didn't know where to start. The father then said to the poster, "I was waiting for you at the door just now, and I watched you pull a green paper doll into the corridor with my own eyes." Hearing this, the poster could no longer hold back and started to cry. At this time, the father probably wanted to ease the tense atmosphere, so he picked up the phone. However, before he had even looked at it for a few seconds, he suddenly blurted out a curse word and quickly called the poster over to see what was going on. Then he handed the phone to the poster. Someone in the residence group sent a message, saying, "Who is this? Putting a paper doll at the entrance of the corridor in the middle of the night, trying to scare people to death." Then he attached a picture. The poster opened the picture and saw that it was indeed the corridor of their house. There was a paper doll as tall as a person at the corner. Just when the poster wanted to enlarge the picture to take a closer look, the message was withdrawn. The father and daughter stared at each other, and they didn't dare to go out that night. When the father went out to work the next morning, he found that the paper doll had disappeared. The story ends here. Welcome to discuss in the comments section. See you next time.